Hi students, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another session of healthcare entrepreneurship. So today we are going to pick it up from where we left last time. So let's get started. So as a person who is a facilitator like the gray person here, he or she should make sure that the user is very comfortable and they are very comfortable in the sense they are able to use it without any intervention or without any judgment posed on them which they would think of, right? So this is how typically a usability test is conducted. You have at least the three people who are stakeholders in this. First is the user, second is a facilitator, and third is an observer. And during this process, if you feel like 10 or 15 users are getting stuck at the same step, maybe they are not able to select the right option or make the payment properly, or not reaching to the right conclusion, or not able to find their right products, then you have some issue with your product. Then you need to take those feedbacks, get back, incorporate those in your website or app, and then bring them back over again at a later stage, or bring a few more people back in the later stage and understand the usability again. So many of the flaws which are not technical will get identified at this stage of usability testing. That's why it's very, very important. So the next question is, when should you actually do the usability test? Which phase of your entire product development or the product journey or the service journey should you actually implement usability tests? So usability test is executed when the project parameters are being set. So it is not done at an ideation stage, not done at a design stage, it is typically done at a prototyping stage, right? To better understand and prioritize what features and functionality the developers should work on. This is specific, you have a developer when you are working on a digital or a physical product. What are the features which are faulty? What are the features the user is not able to use properly? Usability testing during staging is done when the product or feature is nearing completion. So typically this is during your prototyping phase. Once you have created the first or second draft of your prototype and you are kind of confident, you have taken some reviews from the customers, maybe you are almost in the end of your prototyping cycle, that's a good time to do your usability testing before you actually go for mass production or take things out in the market. Many a times we would just overlook this, have everything out for mass production, and then there is a huge backfire and nobody knows how to take care of it, right? So usability testing basically serves as a final check to catch any other usability issues before it is released for further beta testing. Beta testing is usually a further version when you actually have the product, the final version of the product ready, and you want to start testing it in the market and also selling it to few people. So just before this step, when your prototype is ready in their final phase, that is when you do your usability testing, right? So this figure on the right basically tells you the design, the different steps of, like, the product cycle and when usability tests are typically implemented. So this is hopefully very clear. Next is what happens if you do not do a usability test. This is also very important to understand, right? So before we do that, what are the common reasons for not conducting a usability test? Why would companies refrain or forget about usability testing in general? Typically not enough time. So majority of the startups are struggling to really meet their break even, hire people, get fundraised, and build their most technical product and take it out in the market with all approvals and marketing. So they have either forgotten or did not have enough time to check for the usability, right? Not enough money. So many a times it happens so that you do not have enough money to conduct a usability test, because you are spending some money, right? Like you're spending some manpower where there is a facilitator, there is like a observer, you are spending some time and money to bring this users in, you have to take care of their hospitality and make sure they're comfortable, you need to at least get a small space and like few computers and others, minimum things have to be set up, so it will incur some cost. Unless you have an app which is much more easy to be looked at from a usability testing standpoint, where you would just share a link and they could download the API and just look into it, right? and give you some, but even for that you would want an observer to be a part of that usability test while somebody is using an app, to really understand what are the changes in the emotions while the particular person is trying to use the app. Are they getting stuck somewhere? Are they really enthusiastic and happy and look like they're very satisfied, or uh, do they look anxious at most of the steps, right? Third is no expertise in doing this, right? Like, so sometimes usability tests are not conducted because entrepreneurs have no idea how to even do it, right? So that's why this lecture would hopefully equip you with the major steps of usability tests and how you could conduct it, right? The fourth part is no lab or location in which to perform it. So many a times startups are really struggling with space. Typically, if you are looking at startups in Bangalore and places where there are a lot of startups, like maybe Gurgaon and Noida, you would see a lot of these startups are sitting in co-working spaces, right? They have the small room or a small space, like, which is just a co-working space. They are there for a certain amount of time in the day, and that's it. Like, then there is no other entity where they can do anything, right? So many a times lack of lab or any location makes it very difficult to conduct a usability test, because you need a secure location. You do not want a location where people are just passing by, right? The last point is, if the entrepreneur doesn't know how to interpret the results. So many times, that you want to look at the usability, you are concerned about it, that how do people use my app or use my product, but you do not know that the observation based results which you have obtained, how to really analyze them and implement the right feedback in the right way back into your product, right? So many a times, if somebody is anxious in a certain step, you may not know that whether I should change this feature completely or make a separate page or add some extra details. So this is typically the job of an entrepreneur, where he or she needs to figure out that what is the best course of action for making this much more user friendly, right? We have already talked about the UX, UI and other design interfaces and how to make things attractive. So this is also an extension of that. So why is it important to conduct a usability test? Developer knows product too well, can't see it like a newbie. So this is typically one of the key reasons why you need to do a usability test. So when I, as an entrepreneur, have been working on this product for a very long time, and I know all the features on my tips. I know this is useful for the mass crowd which I'm trying to cater to, who are my target customers. So I do not see any flaws or any issues which may come up, right? But when you give the same product to a new user who has no idea how this particular product functions, that is where the flaws starts to come up. So as a developer, product developer, it is very difficult for me to understand how easy this product is to be used from a newbie standpoint. If usability test was always conducted, then you would never have products such nice products like the German thermometer, which I was working with, and it is so difficult to use. Several of these surgical instruments and medical diagnostic devices, where there are a lot of buttons with certain abbreviations and things like that, you will not have any idea how to use it if you are a new person. You need to be really trained by the company or things like that, right? So as a developer, we would like to understand from the usability tests that what needs to improve, how can the user find it more intuitive and easy to use, right? So again, it is very important to conduct a usability test, because even if limited testing is done, it is far more better than not having any testing at all. So very often than not, you will see entrepreneurs not to spend a single penny or single moment on testing. This is because in India, like, we typically find it very mundane exercise. We want to focus on innovation, we want to focus on the best product which can get out in the market, but we forget about the main entity who are our customers. And this is all across the world as well, right? Comes with maturity of the startup centric ecosystem, right? Like, if you look at the Indian ecosystem, it has maybe really grown in the last 10 to 15 years, but if you are looking at US, the startup ecosystem has quite a bit matured. So many of them like know that these are some of the standard tests and procedures have to be followed. But many of us who are in budding entrepreneurs, specifically in the healthcare space, which is very new, we do not know that these tests even exist and these are supposed to be done. So some usability test is better than nothing. Few early tests are better than many late tests, right? Many a times we forget or refrain from doing these kind of tests, and we just wait, let this product go out in the market, let me start earning money, and then we'll figure it out if some feedback comes. You will be surprised to believe this is how some of the products fail, right? Just one bad word of mouth and your product can completely fail, right? So just one of the examples, like there was this lot of this hearsay about this particular drug, which is a medical drug, which is wrongly used, or this is not exactly to be used like that, and all of a sudden people stop adopting it. One example is the hydrochloroquine, right? So this was back in the initial stages of the pandemic, this became really popular, right? So a lot of the presidents, the US president at that time had basically talked about, like this is one of the key products, like, like which we would like to consider for looking at, like against the virus, basically against COVID-19, one of the medications. But it did not turn out to be very well technically, right? Like, so all of a sudden there were so many hearsays and talks about it that this is not supposedly to be used like this, and then that thing totally vanished, right? So many a times when we do not test certain products diligently and we send it out in the market assuming something will happen, and this happens a lot with repurposing of drugs. Repurposing of drugs is basically when we use a drug for a certain disease or certain condition and we are trying to use the same drug to treat another condition, right? That's known as repurposing. So the purpose is kind of repurposed, you are not changing the drug. So many times this would happen, we are trying to repurpose a drug without having done all the clinical trials or the details, right? And similar things can happen with a lot of products out there in the market in terms of medical devices. So I have heard about one of these stories, very sad to hear, where a medical device company, a very small startup, were using some kind of ophthalmic valves for a particular eye condition, and they were basically trying to tie up with some big institutes and hospitals, but somehow it did not work out. And then they were involved in some kind of unethical means where they were testing these kind of devices in public in some remote village or somewhere else, and that was not a very good thing to do, right? So typically these kind of companies won't survive if because one backfiring and things will go bad. You may have watched, as a matter of fact, there is one series, if you watch television and you are active in the OTT platform, it's known as Humans. I think it's part of Hotstar, yeah. So here also very similar concept was kind of adapted and looked into, where a drug was kind of wrongly used in several customers as a treatment for something, and many of the people actually died because it did not go through the right clinical approval, right? So very similar to coming back to usability tests, sometimes it is better to do due diligent early tests than later tests, right? The last point is, ideally usability testing is iterative and has to be done over and over again. Unless something is really useful and functioning the way it should, we should keep on doing the usability test and keep on getting feedbacks and keep on improvising our product, right? Like I've just talked about this app where we need to make sure that this app is performing rightly, and if there are certain feedbacks which we have received from the customers, we tweak that and again present it to the customer to do the second round of usability tests, right? So these kind of things have to be done stepwise, right? But typically in the interest of time, like we should at least do usability test once. Let's take an example of a usability test. So this is from our previous example of OneSoles, which is basically this insole brand where basically they could use an app based platform, and this is from one of our projects where they could use an app based platform to basically build custom insoles which are suitable for your particular foot condition, as well as these are catering to the diabetic population, right, to some extent. So we did a usability test for the app where some users were recruited, and they were asked to go over the different steps of the app and see if they can complete an order, right. That was the criteria. And while we were doing that, we were assessing the ease of learning, efficiency of use, memorability, error frequency and severity, the subjective satisfaction. These are all the assessment criterias. We were taking notes of all those details, and we want to fill all those 5 details out. What do you think from 5 or 10 users who have taken the usability test? Typically you would go for 50 plus users, like to have a nice bandwidth there, but you could do with 10-15 to start with. Yeah. So how this app functioned was, there was this initial screen of OneSoles where once this was clicked, the next page was pretty straightforward, where there was this you can take the top side image of your foot, and an outline will auto kind of fill in, like the outline will be there around the foot, and then you can capture a picture. Then the next step was you try to capture a picture from the side of your foot. How can you do this while holding it? You can place your mobile phone on a at an edge, like by the like wall, and basically then focus your foot alongside, like so that there is an outline which can be placed around your foot, and then you click a picture, right. So this would typically need 2 persons to do it, because you cannot be the same person who is putting it by the wall, right. So the second picture was a little challenging, and then next step was basically the user selects from the different options, like is it a general kind of footwear, this footwear insole which you are trying to build, or athletic or diabetic, right. Under the general, do you have heel or ball pain? Ball is the basically the toe region, right. Under the athletic, whether you would like an insole for running, basketball, golf, cycling, walking, or what exactly. Under the diabetic condition, do you have diabetic pain? Are you looking at prevention of ulcers, or do you have existing ulcers? So there are so many questions around this which we were trying to explore, that the customers could quickly click on the first column, and then this one of the options in the second column, one of the options in the third and fourth, and finally they reach to this fifth diagram, where basically where they can select the color or how the insole would look like. This is nice to look like, right, like this is what you're going to get as your final insole, and then finally you can pay and complete your order. So did we create all of these as a part of an app? So we did have a dummy app to start with, and then we incorporate this as a part of a real app where all these steps could be executed in the right fashion. And while this usability test was done, we uploaded the app temporarily to Google Play, and anybody of the users could download it, and they would come over, and we would have a facilitator just talk about the app, and then have an observer look over it, right, for a while. So this was the next thing which is part of our product. Like, so we have an app and we have the insole, right. Both are parts of either the same product, or we could call them as one is a product 1 and second is a product 2, which are working together, right. So this OneSole insole is a very nice insole which is built out of this entire journey of the app, and then finally this order is received, and this based on the pictures of the foot, a design is modeled, and then the insole is built, right. So the question here was, do we need a usability testing for this insole as well? Pretty straightforward and good question, right. So the answer to that was actually no, and I'll explain that why. Because we do not need to understand where to actually place your insole and how to use it, right. So typically insole kind of products, we know, like this is something I am not going to put it in my shirt or put it in my face, right. It is something which I am going to put inside my shoe and just walk with it. So this is fairly intuitive. Everybody knows what an insole is, right? So we did not need a usability testing for this. There are so many products out there in the market which doesn't need a usability test. If there is a simple thermometer, for example, it may not need a usability test because you just 2 clicks and you will get your temperature. If this is a complex thermometer, this would need a usability test. So even for the same product, sometimes if it is very complex, it may need a usability test, but there are several categories of the product where you do not need a usability test, right? So typically if you are looking at let us say a massager, you know how the massager functions, right? You put it on your head like it's a head massager, and not too much has to be learned, just 2 steps and you know how to use it, right? Many a times with the surgical devices as well, like you probably need a usability tests because you want to make sure that all the steps of that surgical device, maybe one device goes inside another and there are 3 steps of the surgery that you have to learn. But in this particular example, we did not need a usability test for the product 2. So we needed a test for the app but not for the insole. This is something to understand. So many a times when you have products together, it doesn't mean every product has to go through a usability test. You have to be intuitive and see which one may need a usability test, right? So how is usability testing typically done from a theory standpoint? You typically design the test, you prepare for the test, then you perform the test, and then finally process the data, right? So maybe there is one test which is conducted with 8 users. 8 users may find more problems in a single test, but the worst problem will usually keep them from getting far enough to encounter some others, right? So what this means is maybe 8 users are trying to use your app and majority of them have got stuck in the 7th step. There are some other issues also which are pointed out, but this 7th step is a clear bottleneck. Bottleneck basically means this step is not allowing majority of the users to move further. If they cannot move further, they cannot complete the order. You will not make money as an entrepreneur. So the total problems identified through the first 8 users were 5, right? Then there were 2 tests, you did some improvisation. Then there was further tests with 3 users, where basically the 3 users also identified certain problems which were in the further steps. So all this can be rectified through different levels and stages of usability tests and rectification and feedback based improvements, right? So how do you do a usability test? You typically have a few components here. The first one being you need a study room kind of setup, where it is preferable that a quiet room with a mobile computer product and 2-3 chairs are typically there, right? If you are trying to present an app, you need a mobile phone. If you are trying to present a website, you may need a computer, and in cases where you are trying to showcase a product, you keep the product there. If you have a product with an app, you keep a product with a mobile phone, right? So typically the participant sits and performs tasks with the product. So this is what the role of the participant is. Then you have a moderator and facilitator who guides the user through the process. Typically a moderator and facilitator has certain things, do's and don'ts, which we will be talking about in the upcoming slides, right? So this person basically guides the user through the process and just helps them as they are trying to understand and use that product. Then third is an observer, who is basically somebody who is other than on the development team. You do not need an observer, you do not want to have an observer who is from the development team, because he will observe things in a very different way. You need somebody very unbiased. Maybe get somebody from your marketing team who would actually give you very clear feedback on the expressions and the anxiety and the different levels of enthusiasm which they have observed in the user, right? So other than the development team, you could have somebody and they would typically be on the other side of the room through either a webcam they are looking in, or they are looking through a one-way mirror, This is just like you watch a lot of these action movies where you have the interrogator, like, and somebody is there is a criminal who is getting interrogated by the police, and there is somebody outside who is just observing the expressions of the criminal. So it's not the same context, like the customer here is not the criminal, but like the customer here is somebody who we are trying to really understand. That is the common thread here, whom we are really trying to understand, that what are their expressions, are do they seem very enthusiastic or do they seem very confused, right? So these are the three components, and these all the three components are part of a study room kind of setup. So you're looking on the right, where there's a cartoon where you see a test facilitator and the test user, where the facilitator has a notebook, and she's asking, and what would you do next? Let's say this is at some point of a website where the user is kind of stuck, and this person would ask, what do you think would do next? Would you not go for something like this or something like that, right? And what the user is doing or saying is, I think I would click here, right? So these are how the roles of both the facilitator and the users are, and the observer is watching on a TV, or there could be an observer or a set of observers, and they will be like, yeah, you're probably doing it right, and they're trying to look at all the expressions and recording the points. And all these points have to be recorded from these 5 verticals of assessment which we have discussed: satisfaction, ease of use, how quickly they can use, whether they can memorize. So we have already discussed those, right? Let's look next. So next is identifying participants. So would you just have anybody as a participant for your usability test? How do you identify them? Typically the rule of thumb is, get somebody from your customer discovery who showed a lot of enthusiasm for your product or the product idea. Is sometimes a good idea to get few of those folks like to test your products, right? So the question here is, can I make my mother test our app? Absolutely no. She would always say good things about your app. You do not want these kind of preconceived notions or biased feedbacks, right? Does it matter who the users are for a usability test? Absolutely yes, right? An ideal test has at least 3 to 4 users who have not been told much about the product beforehand. The reason I believe that there could be some people from the customer discovery is because they know what your broad scheme of ideas are, what you are trying to solve, what value you are trying to add to the users, but they do not know exactly what your product is. So they are probably looking at your product for the first time, and you want them to use it and give you the right feedback. Or there could be some possible users like who have never been even introduced to the idea, and you brief them a little bit, this is what this particular product is about, now can you use it and just tell us like what do you feel, right? So it doesn't matter much who you grab as your user, doesn't have to be just like a real user of the product. So it doesn't have to be always the person who is going to buy your product. This could be a person who gives you the unbiased, nice and constructive feedback, and maybe some negative feedbacks as well. That is what we are trying to look at, right? So we have to also understand that everybody is a beginner in a own way, right? Like, so whenever I approach a problem with respect to a new product or a new app, we are all beginners, right? Some people are quick at grasping things, and some people may have observed similar apps or similar products, and they're much more quicker than the others, right? It's bad to design a site that only experts can use. So typically a website or an app or a device which only experts can use, that is something which is not very usable, right? Unless the product requires specific expert knowledge to use. So only there are specific cases where a product has to be used by a very trained surgeon. This is, let's say, a neurosurgical device, which of course not any surgeon will be able to use it, and cannot be used by a general public. So then you need to get the user or the participant as a neurosurgeon who comes and uses that device, right? If you have built an app for the hospitals, you need somebody from the hospital administration who could be a possible stakeholder to come and use the app, right? So Selecting the participants is also very similar to selecting the target customers or understanding your target customers during your customer discovery phase. So, it would be very easy for you to select once you have with due diligence conducted the customer discovery. So, let us look at the cartoon here. Who wants to participate in this study? This is what this person is saying, and the other folks like on the side are confused. So, you do not want to ask like that, who wants to participate and just come over. You want to look at some people who can be unbiased, who can give you proper feedback, and who has some technical know-how of using your products, right? The second picture on the right bottom is showing a person who is extremely confused how to move forward with the website. This is a clear bottleneck for the product. If such things happen, they have to be addressed right away. Okay. Next is facilitating a study. Who is quite qualified to be a study facilitator? What things shouldn't a facilitator do? Right? Is any person who is kind of like there can be a facilitator, or there are certain people who should be facilitators? I will give you a very classic example where typically all of us have visited a doctor, right? So, many a times you will end up visiting doctors who would stare at you like in such a way that even if you have something very simple or things are not very problematic or you do not have a serious disease, you will feel like they are going to say something that you are going to die, right? And this is sometimes some people have that vibe. And there are cases in which you will visit doctors where you are basically trying to get treated for a case and you have some severe disease or something, and they will treat you or talk to you so nicely that you will feel like, oh, it's not a big deal. They will make you feel really calm and composed. So, you would typically want to have a facilitator from the second category, you know. So, somebody who can really make the users feel comfortable. Anybody with a decent people skill can do it. You would not want anybody from the developers, because they would then try to validate their idea by saying, what do you think about this feature? Is it not bad, or is it not really good? Like, I think this is really nice. You don't want people like that. You want people to understand that what do you think you should do next. Please work with this, and hopefully you are comfortable using the next steps of this program, and please give me some feedback on what do you think about this step. This is how a person should interact, right? Somebody with a decent people skills. Be friendly. You do not want people when you are a user so you do not want facilitators who would stare at you as if the next thing they are thinking in their mind is probably you are very stupid, or they are giving that look of a very tensed look or very uncomfortable look where you feel like what am I doing next? It makes me feel really anxious and biased, right? So, you want friendly people. Tell them it's okay to make mistakes, they aren't being tested. So, this is very important for a facilitator to make sure they make the users comfortable by saying that it is totally fine to make mistakes, even I make mistakes. You are not being tested here, we just want to get your feedback on this. Just saying these words or saying these lines will make somebody very comfortable and not make them feel embarrassed at a certain point if there is some glitch or they are not able to get to the next step or whatnot. Encourage them to ask questions and to think out loud. A facilitator should typically do this. The user should be very comfortable to ask you that I think there is I'm not very sure what this particular page means, but I feel like I can probably click here. What do you think, like is this something I'm doing right, or just they're thinking out loud sometimes. So, these kind of things should be totally encouraged. Do not lead the user or give them hints about what to do, but having said the encouragement part, you should not tell them that I think you should click on the right side at the bottom. You should not say things like that, or I think this is the right modality, you should click on the diabetic insole because you have a diabetic condition. Let them do it intuitively. They have a condition, they are going to do the same when they are not in front of you. So, when your product actually rolls out, you want users who are very similar to those users who are going to use the product when you are not around, right? Probe. When they give feedback, ask for more details. So when they sometimes say, I don't know what this particular page or particular product feature typically means, you want to ask for more feedback from them. You want to ask them that what are the other things which you feel should change, and what is your recommendation that within this should really come up or be made much more better, right? So these kind of details have to be asked, to get a much more in-depth feedback rather than just hearing that this is a problem, right? Do not appear to be concerned with note taking or data gathering. So do not look like you are trying to take a lot of data, of whatever they are doing or whatever they are speaking. That may intimidate many of them. They may feel like that all of a sudden, you are kind of judging them, or you are trying to take too much notes into whatever they are doing. That may make them feel really intimidated. Don't be upset if the user fails or gets stuck. Do not show a face of upset, right? You should encourage the users and be like, oh, this is just totally fine, let us try this again, or let us give it a shot, right? Ask user questions when they get stuck. What are you thinking about? What are you trying to do now? So these questions will actually give you the right feedback, which will help you improvise on your product, rather than ask them that don't you think you should click there? These kind of things are not right. Ask them what they are thinking, right? Tip: try taking the test yourself first. So sometimes it's a very good idea, if you want to be the user and be part of a usability test by yourself. You will get a much more better idea of how you are going to conduct this test as a facilitator. So this will be really helping you build your script and kind of getting the right feedback out, right? So that's the role and of a facilitator, and what the facilitator should typically do. So you're looking on the right at some cartoons where basically this user is really loving the experience of this particular product, and the other person, facilitator, is being very calm and composed. So you're looking at another cartoon at the bottom where basically the user is in the box and he or she is very confused. Their mind is going from here to there, and the other person on the other side is just giving them the nice ideas, like who is the facilitator, and saying, hey, I think you should think out loud and think how you should approach this problem, right? So this is what the role of a facilitator is. What are the types of usability tests? There are typically two major categories. The first one is get it testing, which is typically meaning that does user understands the product's basic purpose. So many of the products are so badly made that the user doesn't know what is the right thing to do there. One example is the smartwatch. Smartwatch may be built for taking your steps, reading, like for heart rate monitoring, for sleep monitoring, and so many other things. But what is the exact purpose? What is the smartwatch really good at, right? So that is not very clear. So does the user understand the product's basic purpose, and then can look at the usability? That is very important. So questions like, what do you think this product is all about, is sometimes really helpful, right? What do you think this feature is for? So if you're trying to showcase a product, it is probably a good idea to ask your users that, what do you think this is? What do you think that is? That will give you a clear idea whether the user knows. So if there is a power button, it should be very clearly a power button. It should have some symbols. It should not be like that, this big button, what do you think this is? It could be a power button, it could be something else, right? So many of the products you will see the power button is not clearly demarcated, or a battery button or any kind of useful buttons are not very clear, right? So that is very important. So get it testing, does the user get it, what the product or what the app is going to do for them? Let them just click around for a while and play with the product. This is also very important. Give them the app, give them the product, let them just play around for it, like observe it, take some notes from the distance, right? What are they doing with the product? This is exactly what your customer is going to do when it comes out of the package, right? So, it is simulating the same customer behavior, you are trying to understand what could be the challenges. You want to get rid of these challenges before you roll out the products. Next is key task testing. The first is just getting what the product is or understanding. Second is key task testing. Ask user to do a specific thing and watch to see how they do, right. So, an example is your goal is to purchase the correct insole for your foot condition using the OneSole app. Is the user able to do it? This is what we want to observe, right. If the user is not able to reach to the insole which they want to order, then there is some flaw with your app, or there is some flaw with the options which we are providing, right. Another key task with relevance to OneSole is like, can you capture your foot pictures correctly to create a 3D model? So, is the user able to really capture the pictures that easily, or just as a company we are thinking that it is so easy to capture it, right. So, if these tasks can be completed, these are some specific tasks within the entire product which is the app, can be completed rightly, then we know that this is usable, right. So, these are the two types of usability tests. One is when we focus on certain tasks and see how the user completes it, is it with a high amount of satisfaction and efficiency, and second is, does the user even understand what they are doing. That is the first step, and the second step is the key task testing, right. So, going next, what are some of the other categories of usability testing? The one category is exploratory or formative, where there are high level design concepts. Can the user really use the high level design concepts or very complex features of this particular product, and do they see the value of these particular features? So, many a times you would have a very complex button or complex kind of measurement system within this. Maybe it is an auto measurement. So, like for example, if you are running on a treadmill, there are some manual scales of speed and other details which you set, but there are some automatic paths which are predefined. So, if you click on this is strength training, let us say level 5, right. So, this takes you through different levels of incline, you are running around and the speed goes up, speed goes down. This is a high level kind of concept. Are people getting it, or are people understanding how to use it? So, these kind of concepts are also there in the medical devices, right. Assessment or summative, like lower level operations, user performs actual tasks but not vague goals, less moderated. So, many a times you want to make sure that the users are not pursuing vague goals of usability testing. You do not want a user to try and test an insole, right, for example. That is a vague goal. Everybody knows how to wear an insole. Whether they get a comfort or not get a comfort, that is a separate part, right. So, you do not chase vague goals, you want users to perform actual tasks which can be a bottleneck for your company. Comparison test, match up different prototypes or designs. So, sometimes it may be a good idea to bring in some of the products which your competitors are offering and let them test both these products or both these apps simultaneously or one after another, where they can give you a very key feedback that this is what I feel is better in this is not very good in this. Think about some of the smartwatch manufacturers. If they actually do this exercise correctly, can they not get close to this Apple smartwatch, or which is one of the best in the market? Some of them have actually gone very close. You check out some of these smartwatches in the market. This is another homework for a lot of you, look for the smartwatches which are very ugly looking, and you could think that this is not very good quality, and some of the smartwatch brands have almost made the watch look like an Apple Watch, and almost the majority of the features are almost similar, right. 80 or 90% features are very similar. Look out which watches are these. You can get this for 5 or 7,000 rupees, and what happens out of this is somebody who has an aspiration of an Apple Watch can maybe go with this product. Of course, the quality would not be that high in terms of sensors and other things, but at least that person is able to meet certain levels of the aspiration through this product, right. So, if you are the company who is actually building that smartwatch and trying to basically disrupt the market with your this new smartwatch, then you need to really get your homework done pretty quickly, and nicely, right? You need to know exactly what the customers are looking at. You need to do a usability testing, keeping some of the competitive products and let them compare it, right? I'll give you an example of one of the brands of which have got really popular, not from the healthcare segment, but from into the sound segment or the musical segment, like which is the company Boat. So, typically one of the good speakers or good sound devices are basically Bose. Bose is something very well known. So, Boat was a name which was kind of similar, but they had devices which are very nice and premium looking, much more lower cost, which a middle class basically person who cannot afford Boat, like for a speaker or a headphone which will cost like 30 or 40,000 rupees, they can buy one from Boat for 2 or 3,000 rupees or even less, right? So, they have done their homework right, had all the features, nice quality, nice outlook. So, somebody who aspired to have a Bose is now having Boat, right? So, very similar with a lot of medical products. So, you would see a lot of these thermometers which have evolved with the pandemic, like where there were this lot of these non-contactless thermometers. Initially, they were very pricey. Then a lot of these make in India companies have been able to achieve that level of usability and make quite a few thermometers which are much more at the lower cost versions, right? And they're very popular because the usability standpoint, it's easy and straightforward, right? Okay, the next is under this comparison test, the performance data are gathered for each design and compared. Idea test a competitor's site. Sometimes if you're comparing websites, see what they do, don't like. Best designs may turn out to be a hybrid of the available choices. So many times you have created this really nice website by spending few months to build this website where you're offering, like certain physiotherapy services or some kind of clinical services, and then you want to launch this in the market. You want to probably have a usability test being done with some customers who can point at similar competitors, or you could point them at similar competitor websites, and they can give you a comparative analysis of how your website looks like. Many times you will find very good feedback that your website looks so much better. Typically, if you have a very cluttered website, it could mean two things: that either they do not have too much of competition, they just don't care about how their website looks like, and you will see this for a lot of companies. I have seen this for quite a few pharmaceutical drug companies, like some of these companies will have very nice and fancy website, and some of the smaller pharmaceutical drug companies will have a very shabby website. It will seem like it is built in 1990s or early 2000s, right? And they have never upgraded it, but still they are in business. So that means that is not of much importance for them. But if you are trying to offer a service, then you want to make sure your website or the face of that product is looking very well. So you want to get the usability analysis done and the right feedbacks from the customers on this thing. The last part is verification test, where you verify that the UI or the user interface is okay, and whatever you fixed based on the customer or the user inputs are looking good now, right? Done with an actual product, not just with a paper prototype. So one thing to understand is you can only do a usability test when you have a high fidelity prototype. You cannot do it with a design or a paperwork or a PowerPoint presentation, yeah, because then only you can make constructive improvements and you can showcase it again to the users and get a verification whether they think now it looks good or it still looks shabby or not very good, right? So here is this example where we are looking at the OneSoul's picture taking feature of the app, where basically we are taking the top and the side picture. And what did we observe here specifically? One of the observation here was basically the side part was not fitting in, the side outline was not done very well, and we were not able to track the arch of the different participants, different users. So that was one of the faulty parts which we realized during the usability testing of the app, right? Next part is the observing a test, which is as an observer. Typically this observer should be out of view or out of room if possible. What should observers look for? So observers should typically assess whether the user gets it. That is the first type of usability test, whether they understand what the product or service is. Can they find their way around the product? So maybe they are not very well informed about how the product works, but can they find their way around or intuitively learn as they go through the different stages of the product? How long time or the number of clicks does it take them? So for digital products like websites or apps, do they have to make 10 clicks to get to a certain point, or are they able to reach the payment option or reach the particular product which they need in just 2 clicks? These are the things to observe in a website, right? Do they any of them do a head slapping or shocking things? This is something to be observed. So many a times the user should be like, oh no, what did I just do? Or have a shocking expression like, oh, I don't really know what I am doing, right? So this kind of an expression. So these kind of things have to be recorded very clearly by an observer while doing a usability test. What do the users like and dislike the most about the experience is also to be recorded, right? And this, most of their expressions and sayings will actually represent that what did they enjoy the most about the particular product and what did they enjoy the least, right? Also watch what users do when they get stuck. This is another very important aspect of an observer, is when they get stuck, are they trying to technically think and go for the next step, or are they completely stuck and confused? If they can technically think and go to the next step, then lesser amount of improvements have to be done to your products. But if they are totally confused and do not know where to click or what to click next in the product, then it's a problem. Similar to the German thermometer which I was using, I had no idea what to do next, right? So that is, if an observer would have observed that, he or she would have fixed it like way before, right? So when they get stuck, do they look for help? That is one type of users. Do they reread the page carefully? Do they go back? Do they just stop and look at the moderator? Do they start wandering the app looking for the feature? These are the different options which a person or a user may showcase during their visualization, or when they are stuck with an app at a certain page. So we need to do a very in-depth analysis and observation recording being an observer as a part of these usability tests, right? So this is an example of this dummy group. In this case, this is me, the study facilitator. So this is our startup company, the OneSouls, where you're looking at the app developer on the site. So he developed the app completely, and we are trying to test this app. And then you have 2 observers who are also part of our team, but majorly from the marketing and sales side, right? And then we have a lab space where we have invited the users to typically look at the different features of the app, where they are doing the get it kind of tasks as well as specific tasks which we ask them to do, such as take the pictures of their foot correctly so that the model can be built, or complete their orders, or get through the different stages of the app, right? So I was the study facilitator for this particular thing, and we saw this issue which is highlighted on the right side, issue with the site foot capture. So basically what has happened is, you could see the foot is not fitting within the outline. So the outline is not proper. It should be scalable as per the different kinds of foot, right? And another thing is, there are a lot of options here for the arch, and the auto technique in the auto system or software within the app is not able to detect what inclination or what height the arch is. Is it a flat foot condition versus a very high arch, or a medium arch? What condition of the arch is it? Like, they are not able to capture it. If they capture it wrongly, then we do not get the right foot model, right? So this was an issue which was highlighted when we were trying to do the usability test, and through highlighting of these issues we are able to optimize the product, right? So what did we do next as an optimization? We redid the app to certain stages, like where somebody needs to initially include or enter the foot size. So if the foot size is 8 versus foot size 9, we put something in the software where the outline can scale accordingly and it can take care of the foot size, right? Earlier it was independent of the foot size, whatever the size of the foot is, the outline tried to fit, but now based on the foot size it scaled it accordingly, right. So it was much more easier. Then it had the option of place your left foot in the red outline and click. So we did not want to fit the outline directly, we wanted to fit the foot now within the outline. So that was a new improvement. Place your right foot in the right outline and click, and then further place your feet and click and confirm the arch. So there was this auto scaling which was really helpful, that could totally outline the side of the foot, and basically it gave you the options after taking the picture that which one do you think is your actual arch, right. So there are this 4 options, simple 4 options, 1, 2, 3 and 4. These were enough options to get us like the right insole, a little bit of play there is okay. So if I select the arch option 4, now it is confirmed. Now none of the users can complain further that there is an issue with the arch or issue with something, then now they are very clear that they have selected arch 4 and that is recorded. Now when we make the insole, there cannot be any complaints on the wrong arch, right. So we have kind of streamlined or optimized this system based on all the feedbacks which we have got during the usability test. So we implemented this initially thinking that usability test is something which we do not need, but this came out of the usability test. Everything was just perfect to be launched when we realized something is not working very good. So that is why I would encourage all you budding entrepreneurs to look at usability tests, make sure your products and apps are actually tested on users given all these criterias and very key performance parameters, to make sure that the customers actually enjoy using it, they are satisfied with the usage, they are able to use it correctly, right. Finally, we had the enter wait option. So everything was taken care from the, so we have now removed the bottleneck using the optimized product, right. Next part which I am going to talk about is beta testing. Beta testing is this next version of this usability testing, and we are going to talk about this at length. So what is beta testing? Now that we have learnt about usability tests and several other techniques so far. So as usability tests show you if a concept is usable, right. A beta test, however, shows you if and how people will actually use the live product. So this is depending on like where usability test is just looking at the usage, or whether a customer is able to use the product in the right way or not. Beta test is done at the almost the very end stage, that shows you the real performance of that product, how the customers are going to not only use it, perceive it, like, or rebuy it, or totally give the right feedback about it. It's not only from the usage standpoint, it's from the performance standpoint, it is from the overall experience standpoint. So everything together comes into form in the beta testing, right. So this will be all for today's session. We are going to pick it up from exactly where we left today in the next session. So see you all. Thank you.